I'm building a business from $0 to $1 million annual recurring revenue over the next 12 months, and I want to share with you exactly how I'll be doing it. Welcome back to part 2, where I'm going to share with you an update on the steps that I'm taking in order to build $1 million business from scratch. I'll go and take you through from ideation stage to building a team and how we're getting ahead by leveraging the right people. So we're about 1.5 months past the ideation phase, and now in November, and we've actually got our MVP and already at first user stage. But before we dive into that and sharing you where we are live at the moment, I thought it would be ideal to just backtrack a few steps to show you, how we got here in the first place. Now, if you haven't seen the previous video, click here so that you can get some context as to the type of rules that I'm playing with and the mistakes I'm trying to avoid. Okay, in launching this project, I'm working on different stages or phases so that I can keep track of where we're at and also the milestones that we have to hit in order to progress to the next stages. Now, for a bit of a recap, here are the stages I'm going through. Number 1 is the ideation phase, validation stages, building the team, prototype, MVP, first users or first customers, the adjustment or any pivot, revenue, scale, and number 10, the end goal. For this video, let's talk about the first 3 stages. And at the time I'm recording this, we're already at stage 6, but let's start back at the very beginning. Okay, first stage, which is ideation. The mistake that I wanted to avoid was to spend too long in this stage. I wanted to see what resource I already had and the network of people already around me for some inspiration and to run it through the 10 ground rules I set for myself. Again, for quick reference, here are the 10 ground rules that we're going off. It has to be a high margin, high lifetime value, recurring revenue business model. It has to be a brand that can be independent of an individual. It should be quick to launch and validate. It has to be easy to scale without hiring a big payroll. Be able to be built with little or zero capital. It has to be a business that can be run remotely and anywhere in the world. It must be in an industry or be related to an industry that I have a lot of interest in. It has to be a business where I can attract other founders to partner with. It should have the ability to have multiple leveraged income models. Lastly, it has to be a chance of having an exit event. Now, I had a few ideas at the time, but for me, having the ground rules was key because I actually had a few ideas already in the works, and it included a sales recruitment platform, a newsletter curation platform, and a private paid community. Now, when I applied my ground rules to those 3, the private community was the only one that hit all those points. It's been a business that I've wanted to start since early this year, but I had other projects to complete, so I parked that idea to pursue later. And that later is now, I've decided that the paid private community was the business model that I wanted to build. So quickly passed the ideation stage and moved on to validate. Now, with the network that I was already in, the clients I was working with, it made sense to leverage the niche that I was already in, and I actually enjoyed working with, which are startup founders. I'm already part of a venture fund in the US, and I had access to a good network of startups already. So it just made sense to go down this route, and it hit more of the ground rules that I was going for. Now, I've seen a lot of paid communities and masterminds before. I've been part of a few, but I really got interested down this path after seeing people like Sam Parr, Launching Hamptons, businesses like Chief, and of course, communities like YPO and Tiger 21 who've been around for ages. These are highly vetted communities that are exclusive in nature. And that's the type of community that I've wanted to be part of. But I always found it difficult to find and trying to find different levels of people to sort of grow with. And it's the business model that can be extremely rewarding, but also quite difficult to get right. A lot of the focus is on client experience. And luckily, it's something that I know well enough and I've been able to deliver in my previous businesses. It's also extremely important to have the right people in the group to make sure that the quality of the community is super high and also super valuable. Now, we went through a process of speaking to a lot of different founders at different stages of business, and I was quickly able to establish a problem and a bit of a gap that needed to be filled. That was taking into account, what solutions were already out there or the lack of solutions there are right now. And the feedback was very consistent as to what was missing and also the market section that it was missing in. So to me, it passed the first stage of validation quickly enough. But the thing that would validate this idea for me the most was to actually get feedback from entrepreneurs who I really respected. People who are steps ahead of me in business, and to be able to get their honest feedback on the project was super important. So I went off and I soft pitched to a few entrepreneurs, and the feedback was surprisingly great. They saw the same things that I saw, and they had the same thought process as to what solutions were already out there and what could be improved. So I knew I was in the right path and that we had something that was commercially viable. After that stage, got a pass. I was ready to build a co-founding team ASAP, which was the next steps in the process. Now, this concept was pretty new to me. I'd always done things myself. The strategy that a client of mine had been using to start his businesses came to me at exactly the right time. And it's called the diluted startup method. It's a method all about leveraging other people's skill sets in growing companies. Basically, you take your idea, you partner with people who can execute parts of the business better than you can. And rather than engaging in contractors or experts and bringing them in on employment roles, it was better to bring them in as equity partners so that they can be involved with building your vision as their business as well. Now, this has been a key for me because it's helped get us through the initial stages a lot faster than if I went on my own to do it. And for me, building a team isn't just about bringing people in to do the tasks or, to fill in gaps where you're efficient in. To me, it's all about leverage. So what do I mean by that? I'm talking about finding partners who are smarter than you, or at least a few steps further along than where you are, and selling them into your vision. So the first person I looked for was someone who had great connections, someone who could also be a CEO figure in the business. I didn't necessarily want to be the CEO of this project, but it really depended on who was going to come through on the journey. Enter Michael Bronfman, our now chairman and CEO. Mike's a beast when it comes to his networks and the contacts and the access that he has. He's well connected in almost any industry in Australia and overseas. Plus, right now he has over 16 businesses that he either has a majority stake holding in or some sort of consulting involvement with. And he is the master orchestrator and someone who can really elevate this business to the goals that, even I was not really thinking of. I knew I had to get that sort of expertise into the business. And Michael is actually the one who introduced me to the diluted startup. And I remember telling him when I pitched him this idea that I was going to implement some of his methods on him. Next thing that we look for is another key personnel that had experience in marketing and also operations. Enter Callum Robinson, a former client of mine in a previous business, and he's an all-round action taker. With this person, we really needed someone who could strategize marketing quickly and would be obsessed with customer journey. And Cal already has a successful coaching business that he doesn't need to be in every day, and it's a fractional CMO to 7-figure businesses. And when I pitched him this idea, he actually counter-pitched me on the idea and made it even better. And that really aligned well. I knew we had to bring him in from that conversation. And so here we are, partners in place, all going for the same common goal, all leveraging each other's skills, network, and also our experiences. And we have a good, simple structure in place where we're able to negotiate pretty quickly and basically get to work really fast. One thing to note when putting a team in place is you need to be on the same page from day one. Otherwise, it can be over very quickly. If you have to negotiate too much, or if it takes too long to come up with a win-win situation for everyone, or if you really have to convince them on the concept, it might just be too hard. I've had this happen to me in the past, and it's worked short-term, but definitely not long-term. And I found that the best way to get other people bought into your vision is by having them create their own and make sure that it aligns with yours. And with Mike and Cal, we were on the same page even before I pitched them the idea. What the future holds, I'm not really sure, but at least we're off to the races. We're on the same page from the beginning. And I know with their help and leveraging each other's skill sets, we can get really far along this particular business. And that's it. That's the first 3 stages of our startup and the origin of things to come. Now, in the next video, I'll talk you through our path to revenue, how we came about our MVP, what it looks like to launch, and how we've been able to get our first users. And, let's just say at this stage, we're moving along a little bit faster than what I expected. But for now, that's kind of our first 3 stages. I'll share with you more in the next video, and I'll see you then.